Hi, this is Sturdy McKee of sturdymckee.com. I'd like to share with you some things I've learned about company visions and what that means. A lot of credit for this goes to Stephen Lynch. In addition to reading, learning, and living this process, I learned a great deal from Stephen through his experience and ideas around this topic. Stephen was one of my business coaches way back in 2010 and 11, and he was then and is now the COO or Chief Operations Officer at Results.com. Credit goes to Stephen for coordinating this idea that a company's vision is really comprised of three items: the core purpose, the core values, and the BHAG. In the past, I was always a bit confused and tried to make sense of the distinction between vision, mission, core purpose, strategic goals, and all this. And there's been a good deal of evolution happening around mission, vision, values, purpose, and all this corporate lingo and jargon. But 20 years ago, working at a hospital, we had vision statements that were these muddled compilations of words, and they were obviously put together by a committee. They were long paragraphs or pages even where everyone had to be mentioned and not forgotten, but they defined no direction, no purpose, and no meaning. They were not inspiring, and they did not bring people together. Instead, they gave the perception of each group wanting to be remembered, and that leadership was just trying to check a box. Now we have a vision, that's done, we're good, but it wasn't worth anything to the people who were charged with carrying out that vision. And then there was confusion between what a vision was versus a mission, and values back then weren't even really mentioned in many companies. But we're going to tie all this together and make sense of it. So think of a vision as these three items coming together: the core purpose, the core values, and the BHAG. And we'll get to each one of these components in this course. We'll go through the core purpose now, then the core values and BHAG will be covered in succeeding modules. So on to your core purpose. Now this is why we start with why. If you haven't seen Simon Sinek's video on Start With Why, take a moment after this lesson and watch it. The link's below. There's a 5-minute brief version and an 18-minute longer version you can search for if you're interested. And in this talk, he discusses a company's why or purpose versus the how and the what. He delves into why your company exists. Your how is what you do, or how you do what you do, forgive me. Your how might be part of your UVP, your unique value proposition, or your USP, your unique selling proposition. It may explain what's unique or different about your company, about how your company does what it does, but it's not your why. And your what is whatever you do, and whatever you make, produce, or provide. And as Simon puts it, every company knows what they do. Many know how they do it and how they're unique, but very few know why they do it. Your core purpose is why your company exists. It's its reason for being. And to refer back to what Stephen says, not just to make a profit. It's not just to make it a profit. It's a reason beyond that. And we'll get to results and outcomes later. This is about your company's reason for existence. Simon uses Apple as a great example for the why or the core purpose. Apple thinks different, and they challenge the status quo. But then you've also got Disney and Harley Davidson and others who've been able to capture imaginations and engage people with why they do what they do. Even Starbucks' purpose of providing a third place, not your home, not your office, but a third place for you to go, provides a clear purpose for their employees, their customers, and for management in making decisions and understanding why they exist. I mean, when you look at Simon's golden circle here, he kind of accidentally diagrammed the brain. And I know this because early on when I met Simon, right after he published his book, he told a story of the first time he really gave this talk in public. And when he gave that talk in public, a woman walked up to him at the end and she said, "Hey, I'd love to meet you. I'm a neuroscientist, and do you realize that you just diagrammed the brain?" And that's where that idea comes from, where he discusses the core of the brain, the components that are responsible for emotion and not for the higher level language and logic. This helps make sense of the difficulties that we encounter trying to articulate our core purposes. This connection is not easy. So for those of you with a clinical or neuro background, you might look at this and recognize that, oh yeah, there's really a correlation here. So when you have difficulty articulating your core purpose, appreciate that it can be very difficult to articulate. That's why it's really a discovery process to get to your core purpose. It already exists. It's already there. There's a reason you started your company. And I've very rarely ever met anyone who's passionate about what they do say that they started their company just to make a profit. There's a reason your company exists. And very often that involves serving people or helping people. It often revolves around finding a better way or solving a problem that has not been solved before. Just remember that that's different and distinct from your UVP, from the how you do what you do. It's also important to point out that your core purpose is not a goal or a BHAG. When we get to the BHAG, that will be more of a goal. And it is a component of your overall vision, but it is distinct from your core purpose. So again, the core purpose is the reason your company exists. Why does your company exist? What does it do? For whom? And why is that important to the world? Here are a few examples of company core purposes. So my core purpose at sturdymckee.com is to help business owners succeed. My personal purpose is aligned with this. It is to help people succeed. There's a thread that runs through that. I've always tried to help people. I did this through practicing physical therapy. I've taught English, business, kinesiology. I've coached soccer teams, both kids and adults. I've volunteered for the elementary school site council as a mentor for nonprofits and on the board of EO. And all those things have a common thread running through them. As different as soccer and PT and teaching and business advising and coaching are, this success theme is a common thread throughout. And that core purpose is a lot more compelling, at least for me, than just saying I want to build a $2 million, or $4 million, or $50 million business. The question is really, what drives you? What are you passionate about? And why should anybody care? The next one is San Francisco Sport and Spine Physical Therapy's core purpose. It is to get people better. Pretty straightforward and simple, and we deliberately do things that are complementary to that and support that, but ultimately that's why we exist. 3M had a core purpose they had documented and had published in the past to solve unsolved problems innovatively. It's short and succinct. It's hard to find published out there on the web right now, but in the past it guided their business decisions and attracted the right engineers and inspired them to do some really cool things. And Results.com's core purpose, another example, is to end disengagement through a management revolution. And again, this helps them decide what moves to make, explains why they're doing what they're doing, and helps to attract and inspire people who align with their core purpose, people who want to get on board and help push that forward. So remember to be patient with yourself when you're working through this and defining your company's core purpose. It can be very difficult to articulate in a short, succinct way. As you work through this, realize that even with coaching and advising and working with someone who's done this before, it often takes a company 6 to 9 months to really get this and the rest of the vision clearly defined and dialed in a way that leaders are really comfortable with and feel like they truly own and can use. It takes this long before they have it to a point that they're happy and comfortable with and begin to incorporate it into their business and their culture. So do be a little bit patient. So a little story for those not familiar with the 3 bricklayers. There's a story about a man who walks up to a bricklayer and says, "What are you doing?" And the bricklayer says, predictably, "Well, I'm laying bricks." And he walks up to a second bricklayer and says, "What are you doing?" And that bricklayer says, "I'm building a wall." And he walks up to the third bricklayer and says, "What are you doing?" And that bricklayer says, "I'm building a church." And this is the old Trinity Church in Church Creek, Maryland. It was built in 1675. It's one of the early churches in America. And you can see the brickwork here, and it's still standing. But that idea of building a church or building something that was meaningful to that person, contributing to and creating something that will outlast them, that idea can be truly compelling. And this reason, this purpose, it goes way beyond making money or scaling up a business. A compelling, inspiring core purpose can compel and inspire people to do great things. And I want to take just a minute to address something that's been circulating out there recently. There's been some kind of high-profile talk about the purpose, the why, and that it's a bunch of bunk, and you just got to do things, never mind why, just do it, go forth, do. But people do things because they're inspired by the purpose or the cause. They do things that they do not get paid for. They do things for emotional reasons. And you got to have a reason for doing a thing. And a reason beyond just paying the bills. There are so many reasons beyond just paying the bills. Think about people who go into teaching, people who go into healthcare, people who work with kids like caregivers and counselors. Or think about people who volunteer or give money. Or just in the car, I was listening to public radio and think about the people who work there. they're doing those things. People who do all these things, they're doing them to serve others, to help people for a higher cause. They aren't just doing it to do something. They're not just doing it for a paycheck. They're not just doing it to pay the bills. So your company's core purpose should ultimately provide an inspiring and unifying reason for the members of your team, for all the people who work in and want to join your company. And ultimately, your core purpose may inspire others. It may inspire your customers and the people who want to do business with you, whether they refer patients or clients to you, whether they want to partner with you on certain strategic objectives, or whether they want to come to you as a client or customer themselves. It's very important that your core purpose explains the reason your business exists beyond just a profit. It will inspire when it gives people a reason to work there, a reason to do business with you. It will inspire when it gives people a reason to partner with you, a reason to get behind your cause. And together with your core values and your BHAG, your core purpose is a critical component of your overall vision. And don't worry if you don't know what a BHAG means yet, or how to develop your company's core values. We'll get to that in the succeeding modules. Thanks so much, and please share this with somebody that you think might need it or would like it, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks.